Miniature Market has thousands of board games at discounted prices. Click the direct link below to see all of those discounted games. Hello my friends, today we're going to Camelot with the Knights of the Round Table, and we're going to be going out on quests. See, 15 years ago, a game came out called Tales of the Arabian Knights, and back then it was a really popular game that's been out of print for a long time. And this is sort of a sequel to that. It uses a lot of the similar mechanisms, uses a lot of the DNA of that, but now it has been sort of redeveloped into a new game, new stories, new setting, Tales of the Arthurian Knights. It's really a sort of choose your own adventure, story-driven game. Let me show you how it works. I'll see you on the other side. In Tales of Arthurian Knights, you're going to pick one of the many knights. Each of them has a specific color and it has some nice artwork, and you're going to start with some specific skills. For example, there's a martial, spiritual, courtly, and wilderness, and you'll start with 3 of them up here on a +1, which basically means whenever you do any checks with these, you get to add 1 to your die. As you get better at those, you'll be adding more and more to those dice. Now, it's an elongated board from top to bottom that shows many regions. You're going to be starting in Camelot and moving around to different regions, and they're different types, like there's swamps and forests and things like that. You're also going to be having some renown, which is going to show you how much you're going to move, like in this case 3 at the beginning of the game, and you'll have different renown and divinity, romance, villainy, and different things over the course of the game will have you move up. This will help you in scoring as well, but also helps you move more. The game is played over multiple ages. You can decide how many ages you want to play in a competitive game. Each age is 4 rounds long, basically 4 turns for everyone. If you're playing co-op or solo, you must play all 3 ages. You're trying to have the most divinity at the end of the game, and you're going to earn these by different ways. Everyone's going to have a starting quest. It tells you where to put your quest markers, like this is the Hunt the Wild Boar, where I'm going to go to a location and I'm going to be able to basically hunt the boars. There's going to be 3 quests in different forests in that region, and then when I reach each of them, I basically have an account and remove the quest, and when I finish all those, I'll gain a destiny. That's what these are, destinies, that's the points in the game, and I'll get 1 wilderness skill of my choice. So for example, I'm in the region it tells me to be in, I put my quest markers, my number 1 quest, and those, once I do encounters with all 3 of those, I finish that starting quest. And since that would gain me a wilderness, I could move one of these up to give me a +2, or I could bring this other one up here and be a +1, for example. Now the game mainly involves reading stories and being, enthralled with the stories. There's not a lot of mechanisms in the game. On your turn, most of the time, you're going to flip this encounter card, and it's going to be a certain type. This is a person, so you'll also flip a feature, and this happens to be a Mad Hunter. So here we would read 1507 from the Tales of the Arthurian Knight book. Now this book is the star of the show. It's huge, it's heavy, it's well built. It even has places to hold these nice little things that you see in like big books where you can kind of hold your things. Try not to read any of this to spoil anything. So just try not to show you too much here. Then you'll read this. Well, actually, the player to your left will read this. And the writing is really good. I'll just read you this one thing here. An arrow streaks past, close enough that you feel it stir the air like death's breath upon your cheek. You pivot to face its source and see a hunter with a wild grin. A wolf mask, carved in the manner of the Fae, is fixed on his face, but you can still see his bloodshot eyes, and the pupils shrunk to pinpricks. You dodge well, the hunter says with oddly wolf-like mannerisms. It's because of the mask, you wonder. He says, perhaps you're not prey. Perhaps you're a 2-hour hunter. The feral man starts circling you. If you'll join me tonight, there will be sport, meat, blood. What do you say? So you can either join the wild hunt, go to 1135. You may try to remove the Fey mask from the hunter, 1395, or you may scare him off as you would a creature of the wild. Now again, at the beginning of your turn, I would have moved out of Camelot. I'm here in here. This is where that happened. And now I would basically have to roll the die. Now it will tell me, depending on your choice, sometimes it will change. Like it'll say something plus the location number. So if I have to roll a 3 plus this, I'd have to roll a 4 or higher. Unless it says that what I'm doing is hunting. Then I would get a +1. So if I had to roll 3 plus the location was 1, I had to roll a 4. Well, this gets me a +1, so I really only have to roll a 3 in order to pass that task. And certain things will happen when you pass, certain things will happen when you fail. You usually get some sort of reward when you fail as well. Sometimes you'll get a status. Every player has a huge deck of status cards that are in alphabetical order. You might get something like Obsessed. You've become supremely focused on the task at hand, and the longer you focus on your current task, the greater the outcome. Either positive or negative, only time will tell. This status never expires, so at the beginning of your turn, essentially, you're going to move this down, and a lot of them, when you get to the end, something happens. Like it'll clear it, and something bad will happen, or different things will happen. But this status happens to never expire. After 4 turns, you keep it here. And there's certain things and stories that might come up that say, hey, if you're obsessed, this will happen. There's things like that. Now let's say after a few turns, you finish that beginning quest, you get the rewards for that, but then you get an advanced quest. And it might be something like the Ghost King. Set up and choose a region with at least one swamp and have another player place your quest marker on any swamp in the region. And they're trying to make you not score points, so they're going to put it in a bad place. And then when you reach this location, you can do a special encounter, and you can either aid the spirit using piety for 4, when you have to roll 4 or higher, or afflict the spirit using magic. Now, again, these are skills that you could get better at, so you can know what you're trying to get better at and move those things up, and then make this a little bit easier for you, and then tells you what to read and what to do. But you have to go to these certain spots to do that. Optionally, you can also play with grand quests, and these are quests that are huge, and basically you're going to be play this in competitive mode only. But you are basically going to have to work on things with other players. Certain amount of players you'll have to do different things in order to pass these grand quests. Now, some of the encounters that you come up with, you'll actually flip and put here. Now, there's a different card that's for the different age. This is age number 1. So if you see this in age number 1, depending on the region you're in, if we're in the swamps, you'd read 2253. If you're in the forest, 2217. But you know what? If you're in like age 3, now it's going to read something different. So every time you play this game, when you come across different encounters, it'll change depending on which age you're in and which region you're in. So there's a lot of replayability still built into the story. And if you see the same thing twice, there's multiple choices. Maybe last time you saw someone do X and this time you're gonna do Y, see what happens. There's also locations. There's a number of these equal to the amount of players plus 1 in there. Now if you get this, you'll end up putting a 1-point divinity on there. And you're going to be, basically you're going to get this when you go here. Now depending on the age, you'll read a certain thing about, like let's say Camelot, and then if you end up going there, you can do a special encounter. So you'd read 2604, and then if you get there, depending on what age you get there, you'll read this and certain things will happen. And again, there's lots of different locations on the board that you can only get to with these special location cards. For example, if I had drawn this Stonehenge card, I would need to, the only person that can go to Stonehenge is someone that has this location, and then again I could trigger that. So different types of encounters are in the game. And again, you're going to be moving up different divinity, romance, and villainy of different renown, and moving these up is going to score you points at certain times. It's also going to allow you to move further. And I know I kept calling this divinity, this is actually destiny. Those are points in the game where the most destiny wins. Now, at the end of age, you're going to score things. At the end of age 1, every knight scores destiny equal to their highest skill rank. So let's say I had this like over here. You probably wouldn't have that in the first age, but maybe you got this far. So you'd either have this, which would be 3, or your highest rank in renown. So maybe you had something like this. This is 1 is 3, you get 3. All the players will have their tokens on this board here. But at the end of age 2, every knight scores equal to the number of individual skills they possess that are rank 3. So let's say we had that at the end of the second age, I would get 3 destiny. Or the number of renown they possess that are rank 3 or higher. So you're either going to move up in here, or you're going to move up in here for destiny points in age 2. At the end of the game, you'll get points, 3 destiny points if you end in Camelot. Then every knight's going to score equal to their highest rank of renown. Then you're going to score destiny equal to your highest skill rank or the number of skills of the possessor to a higher. So this could get me 5, this would get me 3, so in this case I would get 5, for example. And whoever has the most at the end wins. But there are solo co-op cards that help you, if you're playing solo or co-op, decide when things have to be decided for you. When it says have another player decide this, you can use these cards to basically have it decide for you where things go. And last but not least, there's treasure, and these will do different things. Like, for example, this is a white dun main. You gain mounted hunting, but you lose unhorsed in case you had that. And then during your movement, you can move 1 space by land for free. And if you become unhorsed, you discard this. So these different treasures are going to give you different abilities over the game. But again, the game is more about the story and less about who wins and the points and such like that. All right, so let me talk about what first I liked about Arthurian Knights, who I think it's for and who I think it's not for. For sure, this is definitely an immersive choose-your-own-adventure style game. When I was a little kid, I loved playing or reading the choose-your-own-adventure books. Those books back then didn't even have any pictures in it. It was just like, hey, do you want to go up the stairs or go down in the basement? Okay. And you're just doing these things. I used to love those choose your own adventures. So I tend to like board games that have choose your own adventures aspects to them. But this is immersive. It's definitely got great quality, heavy book. So it's got good writing. The writing really makes or breaks these types of games for me. The writing in this is good. It keeps you enthralled. I only read one thing in overview. I didn't want to try. I know there's a ton of stuff in that book, but I didn't want to spoil things like that. But I do want to give you a flavor of what it read like. And the book itself, my gosh, that thing is big and heavy. And this is a big, heavy box, and most of it comes from that book. Great quality book. I love the little things that keep your pages, because sometimes you're flipping back and forth. That's really nice. I like there's different encounter types. I think they're used in different ways. Sometimes you have, as I showed you, like a certain thing, and it goes with a certain type of aspects. Like we saw the Mad Hunter, for example, right? And they have a feature, and I like that because every time you play it, you might see the hunter again, but if it's something completely different, it's going to do something completely different, and your brain thinks about it in a different way, right? And then you've got the different ways of lining those up depending on the age that you're in. And sometimes you have special encounters. So I like that you can replay this quite a bit due to the different combinations that are created with the numbers and the choices you make. Because even if you came up with the Mad Hunter again and you still came up to it in age 1 and you still came up to it in the swamp, well, now you have a second choice you can make. Sometimes there's more than 2 choices. So I think there's a lot of replayability built in. You're going to be playing this a ton of times probably before you start getting to the point where you would have to repeat something that you've seen or heard before. So I like that they did build a lot of different paths in there. I like that there's different skills to help with making decisions, like hunting. When I came across that hunter, I had my hunting skill up, and I used that when I had to make decisions in order to, be able to have to roll less. I like that. Sometimes you're going to get statuses. Those are going to change things. They're going to interact with things, other things that go on. The quests give you sort of focus of what to do. Otherwise, you just become like aimlessly walking around for no reason. But this gives you some certain things to go for, certain things to shoot for, to give you some things and give you some, give you some benefits and things like that. I like that you could play competitive or cooperative or solo. And you can set the length of the cooperative game. You got 4 players, you might want to play 1 or 2 ages, right? Because it takes a while. It can take up to 3 hours if you're playing a 3-age game with 4 players or such. So, but I like that you can sort of change that. And I also like that you can play cooperatively. This game, sure, you're going to pick things that make it hard for everyone else. This game is really not about the game. It's not about the scoring. It's not about this and that. Sure, you're tracking things to make things easier or not as hard, but that also helps you with the story, gives you some focus, but still allows you. The story is the star here. So on the negative side of things, there was kind of weird that the end of the age scoring reward, I did not see like a player aid for that. I kind of really wish like the backside of the next age would have the scoring for the previous age, so you can easily see it, because they change. Each of the scorings change from end of age. So you got to know what you're going for as you're upgrading certain things. Should I upgrade the divinity track? Should I upgrade my skill on certain something? Well, depending on where you're at and what age you're in, will change which decisions you make. It kind of shapes what you're doing. Again, the game isn't really about, this is more of a party-ish game than a real game. But there is scoring, and you are trying to win, either cooperatively or competitively. So it was kind of weird that they did not have sort of a player aid. Maybe I missed it. Maybe it's in there. But it would have been better to have that sort of on the back of the player aid for the next age for the scoring, so everyone can clearly see what's going on. It's been 15 years since the original game came out. And the original game was a huge hit. Since then, many games have been coming out with lots of story-driven components. You got like Above and Below that was really story-driven but very Euro-y. You've had even games come out that are like point-and-click PC adventures now that you play. Cosmos came out with a whole section of those. And even more recently, there's been like games from Plaid Hat Games like Forgotten Waters and Freelancers that not only is sort of a choose-your-own-adventure, but also it's spoiled us with amazing top-notch voice acting where no one has to read it. A voice actor reads it for you. You don't have to flip pages. It's there. And those games actually were super immersive, but also were games too. And those games are actually more gamey. They had more game going on than this one does. And I felt it was even more immersive because of the voice actors. So I like that they've redeveloped this. I think fans of the original are going to enjoy this. But I feel like this game is a little bit, feels dated and feels like it was in a time capsule, like it's the long lost version of Tales of Arabian Knights. Hey, we came out with this 15 years later, but guess what? This other stuff that has come out recently that, in my opinion, is more immersive, more gamery, but still feels like an experience first game, I feel like those are better experiences for both the immersive and the gamer aspect of it. So I don't know. I think this is going to be a hit for some people. I think if you really like sort of role playing and storytelling and things like that, and you don't really want heavy mechanisms, this is great. But then again, even with that being said, there's better games out there for this, I felt. If you know what you're getting into and you've played the original, you've been dying for a new one, and maybe you haven't been spoiled with all these great voice actors in some of these new games that do similar things, I think you're going to enjoy it. But for me, this isn't the style of game that I tend to like anyway. I like Choose Your Own Adventures, and I like them as a game itself, but when you try to make it a game, it's like, for me, I'm like, pick one or the other. Give me a game or give me an immersive experience. When you try to blend the two, it doesn't usually typically work, which is why I actually was very impressed with those Plat Hat games, because those ones actually hit the mark on both things. So in the end, this game is definitely not for everybody. I think from watching this, you should be able to decide if this is for you. This is Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships in board games, helping you find the next one you love.
Game Toppers upgrades every game you play, and their 4.5 Kickstarter introduced the new Galactic Minecraft and Watson Game Toppers with interchangeable rail inlays, as well as new game mats, miniature gaming terrain packs, leg kit options, dining covers, accessories, and amazing package deals. The campaign recently ended, but it's not too late to pledge late at GameToppersLLC.com.